energy resources. Now, we are going to discuss that how is the sun main source of the energy. So we all know that sun produces heat and light energies. This is something which is directly produced by the sun. Now, there's another source of energy that we've been talking about, which is wind, right? So through wind, we can make electricity. Now, this wind is moving air, right? So this moving air is due to the fact that there's an uneven heating of Earth by the sun. So when there's uneven heating, that means some places are heated well compared to the others. Then that means the places which are heated, over there the warm air rises up. Now, in order to replace that empty space where there is no air, now the cooler air basically flows in. So this cooler air is basically the moving air, or which is basically the wind. Now, wind in turn causes waves. So we already know that wind is indirectly caused by the is caused by the sun, because this is due to uneven heating. Then we also know that wind causes waves, and waves, if they're caused by wind, and wind in turn is caused by sun. So this can be traced back to the sun as well. Now, waves are basically produced when wind blows across seas and oceans, right? Then we have biomass and fossil fuels, which come from the living things. We all know that these two things produce energy, and they can all be traced back to the living things, and living things can be traced back to the sun, because number one, plant depends on the sun, the light energy of the sun, to produce food which can be eaten by the other animals and can be used by the plant itself. So we know that all the energy basically comes from the sun. Now let's discuss the review questions. Now, if they're over here, they're asking you give 3 examples of fuels which briefly describe what they're used for. So this is a very easy question. We have already discussed about a lot of fuels. You can talk about any of them. One example is crude oil. You can refer to the video and then see what exactly is another option. And then the uses are, of course, that a lot of machines depend upon energy, and then electricity comes from these fuels as well. So to find out whether alcohol or candle wax has a higher energy output, Sarah carried out an investigation to find a temperature rise of some water when heated with each type of fuel. The table below shows the variables she changed and those she kept constant. So her question is to find a temperature rise of some water only with each type of fuel, right? So this is something she has to change to observe the results. But over here, you can see the variables she has changed and the variables she has kept constant. Well, remember, for a fair test, I already told you one condition, that is that one variable has to be changed, and the others have to be kept constant. So did Sarah conduct a fair test? You can answer this well. Will the results of her investigation be correct? If a test is not fair, can the results be correct or not? You need to explain that. Now give 3 examples of fossil fuels and briefly describe how they are formed. So we have already discussed the fossil fuels. One is crude oil. You can also refer to the video and to the chapter of the book to see what are the other 2 examples of fossil fuels. Now, question number 4 is differentiate between renewable and non-renewable energy resources. Give 1 example of each. So renewable is something like sun energy, solar energy, and think about a non-renewable as well. I'm not telling you the answers because I want you to write the answers, not just copy down whatever I say over here. So please watch the video all over again and again so that you are able to reinforce the concepts. Now, why is there, let this go away. This isn't going away right now. So is biomass a renewable energy resource? Why? So, well, we have already discussed about biomass as well. Is it a renewable energy resource? Well, yes, we do say that it's a renewable energy resource. Why? Because it is It comes from living things. And as long as living things are on Earth, then that means there's a constant supply of this biomass. Then why is there a need to conserve energy? State three ways you can conserve energy in the daily life. In that slide, we discuss a lot of ways through which we can conserve energy. One of them is you can walk and cycle rather than use car. And why is there a need to conserve energy? Well, yes, because you can easily answer that, right? Because energy, we all know, especially the one that comes from the burning of the coal, produces a lot of pollution and results in the global warming. What do living things need energy for? So living things need energy for the important life processes. Well, we have organs which depend upon energy. Where and how do they obtain energy? This is a very easy question. And for this, you can think of a sun and then of a food chain. State the SI unit of the energy. So the standard international unit of the energy has been discussed in part 1. Explain why the sun is the source of almost all the Earth's energy resources. This is just discussed in this video, so you can easily answer. One is that, because sun directly first provides the heat and light energy, which can be used to produce electricity. Now, come to the think tank question. Compare the advantages and disadvantages of the renewable energy resources you have learned about. In the previous video, I made a table in which I talked about the advantages and the disadvantages. So which renewable energy resource is most suitable for your country? Explain. So this is an open-ended question. You can basically provide evidence, and you can prove your point just by explaining it in a really good way, right? So for example, if I'm with the solar energy, I'll have to explain that why exactly I'm with the solar energy. Are the advantages more than the disadvantages? Or if I am with the water energy that comes from water, or the hydroelectric energy, am I happy with the advantages, or are the advantages worthy enough to be followed or not? And then the pie chart shows the pie charts show the proportions of different energy resources used in the world during the years 1850, 1900, 1950, and 1990. So I have to relate each of the pie chart to its respective year. So for example, when wood was most used, then probably it is from somewhere in 1850, because at that time, yeah, we had less development. So maybe this is from that time, right? And then mostly manpower was used. And then if we talk about 1900, so probably this chart can relate to 1900, because coal is used widely over here. And then if you talk about 1900, then probably this, because in 1950 we can say this, because for 1990, since it's a much modern time, so nuclear energy is is basically a modern sort of energy. So probably this can relate to 1990. So you can explain it really well now. Imagine that you are the boss of a factory manufacturing canned food. What measures would you take to conserve energy in your factory? How do you think conserving energy would help your business to be more competitive? So, for example, if I were a boss, I would have basically used energy saving bulbs rather than the filament bulb to save energy. So you can think of other ways